If you think the Hindenburg raid on the Adani stock was simply shadowy figures short-selling to make a quick buck, then think again. If you believe the BBC documentary was merely a look back to highlight so-called wrongs of the past, then you are missing the wood for the trees. Both events were part of a larger game plan to derail the India story on the worldwide India dashboard. I will explain in some more depth a little later why I make this absolutist statement. But the point of this episode is a little different. Is the government and our opposition prepared for more Hindenburgs coming in the foreseeable future to gaslight the India story? Because believe me, more Hindenburgs are in the pipeline and they will come in thick and fast as we approach closer to the 2024 general elections. Before expanding on this theme, let me take the occasion to welcome all to the CAA show. CAA, as all of you know, is Conversations and Analysis, and my name is Juggi Bhasin. To watch this video podcast, press the big red subscriber button on your screen, and subscription is of course completely free. Before I talk of the role of the government and the opposition, let me first explain how close we came to seeing the India story derail off tracks. When the run on the Adani stock began, we were saved by pure luck, providence, foresight, or whatever. The reason for that is that the exposure of the ordinary retail investor in the Adani stock was at best minimal. And even that limited exposure has not brought on any losses for the retail investor, as the insurance behemoth LIC clarified during the crisis. And therefore, even though the government woke up late to the India raid, as I call it, the damage was to a large extent contained and the markets did not go in a tailspin. Now, assuming the retail investor was heavily invested in the Adani stock, and with the kind of volatility we have seen in the stock market, what do you think would have happened? There would have been a run not only on the Adani stock but the entire stock market itself. Investors, both retail and institutional, would have withdrawn money in droves. And that would have happened because nothing spooks the markets more than the plight and the losses incurred by the ordinary retail investor. The forces that orchestrated this raid miscalculated on this point and were a breath away from a complete collapse of the stock market. This being the case, are we better prepared now? Because the raiders of their last lost cause have tasted blood and they will keep on coming for more. Let us start with the opposition. The opposition is of course trying to capitalize on this opportunity by derailing parliamentary debate and being strident of the entire matter. But they forget one simple thing. Hindenburg is not the Bofors scandal the opposition think they have latched onto. It would not be an exaggeration to say that the country collectively hates this shadowy group called Hindenburg, and many view the ingress of Hindenburg in our financial system as nothing less than the manipulative raid of the erstwhile East India Company when they entered India for nefarious purposes. And if the opposition uses the so-called credibility of Hindenburg to corner the present government, the opposite of what the opposition hopes it will achieve might start working. The public at large will not distinguish between anti-India Hindenburg and the opposition. Now let us take a look at the critical role of the government in such matters. In the past, India has been compared to a lumbering elephant, slow to get up, but once in stride, it crushes everything along its path and becomes unstoppable. I think the elephant analogy is correct. We were slow to react to the Hindenburg crisis. The entire approach of the government seeking to distance itself from the Adani group as just another stock and we couldn't be bothered less with it won't do. Adani or Ambani or a Tata, the fate of every large company should matter to the government, which means we have to be more fleet-footed and nimble and proactive in our responses rather than elephant-like lumbering. A timely response could have stopped unnecessary hemorrhaging of the stock and jitters for the overall market. Unfortunately, we let the damage pile up and then we react. We have seen this problem occur and recur regularly as with the present case of Hindenburg and in the past Chinese incursions. Atmanirbhar means being intrinsically proud of what this country and the government stands for, and that should not be a mere slogan to be mouthed on special occasions. It should be a way of life, the very raison d'etre or the reason for existence of this government. That approach is still not completely there. The communications outreach of this government is very weak, even though the Prime Minister is an incredible communicator. But he alone cannot push India's case all the time. There is need for daily briefings, be it on Hindenburg or China or whatever other crisis that hits us. Stop the evil before it takes root. And finally, a suggestion for our Prime Minister on the Atmanirbhar itself. It is a great idea and ideology, but practice what is preached. I sometimes get the feeling that despite all the success that has come the Prime Minister's way, he still seeks validation from foreign entities, heads of states, even the liberal community that despises and opposes him. This, in my humble opinion, is a significant weakness. And try hard as much as he wants, there is a section of the West and the liberal body which will always be opposed to him. Foreign entities sense this flaw in the top man in the country and they exploit it. The same weakness cripples many of our movers and shakers of our establishment. The validation of the Westerner becomes an issue of huge importance. And that is the sole reason why crap outfits like Hindenburg so easily penetrate our systems, triggering a collapse. True Atmanirbharta means self-sufficiency in every possible way. It also means being self-sufficient at home for all the praise that comes way of the Prime Minister and not particularly caring for encomiums from the West. I would go as far as to say that seeking praise from the West is nothing else but a sign of weakness. The Prime Minister should do something about this because there are Hindenburgs waiting in the shadows to strike when we least expect it. And so, on this note, I come to the end of this episode of the CAA Show. I hope you really enjoyed this particular episode. If you like our show, do subscribe to us. And on this note, it's goodbye and cheers from Ireland.